Welcome back to another UCL Fantasy video and podcast. This will be the best Limitless team for Matchday 3, and a lot of you might be looking to use the chip this week, so this will cover the best 15-man squad using this specific booster with unlimited budget, and this team will last for one specific match day. In Matchday 4, your team will revert back to how it was before you activate the chip, and any transfers you made before activating it will not count and carry through, so just take that into account. I am asked that a lot over the last couple of years, and in terms of the best wildcard team, that's also headed your way as we're approaching the midpoint of the league phase very soon. That could be a good time to use the wildcard as well. Check out my chip strategy guide as I discuss the best time to use both chips, and it also includes some possibilities of saving one or two of them later in the competition. Smash the like button and subscribe if you're new. If you enjoy my content, our aim is to get this to the 200 likes and to keep on pushing towards 35 subscribers and beyond. Keep your eyes peeled for my team selection ahead of Matchday 3, where I could be using a chip this week, and also the deadline stream next Tuesday. Without further ado, let's jump straight into it. It's worth highlighting that this video is recorded on Friday morning, so there could be plenty of injury updates over the weekend. Always keep your eyes peeled for the comments section as I provide updates there for the best wildcard and limitless teams, and I'll try to also provide updates in the deadline stream on Tuesday. But let's start off with the two goalkeepers. Like I said, budget is no issue whatsoever, but try to keep in mind a balance between the Tuesday and Wednesday players, and the preference will be to have more playing on the Tuesday so you can make substitutions and take off for low scoring players for those yet to play. Emi Martinez is currently the second highest scoring goalkeeper in UCL Fantasy, only behind David Raya with 15 points, facing Young Boys away and Bayern Munich at home, which is very impressive to say the least. Now, Aston Villa haven't kept many clean sheets in the Premier League, just the one against Manchester United, and you do have that suspicion that Aston Villa show more concentration against the bigger teams, and maybe against the weaker opponents they'll concede more goals as they employ a more offensive approach, so to speak, as they concede more chances in the process. But I think they can keep several more clean sheets in the Champions League this season, and Bologna at home is a great fixture. They've also struggled to score in this competition, so I think Aston Villa can keep a third consecutive clean sheet, but I can understand if you want to go for David Raya instead, who plays on the Tuesday, the 22nd of October. That also make a lot of sense, but you could also go for two Arsenal defenders, and I'll talk more about this in the next few sections as well. But as for the 23rd of October, on the Wednesday, I'd also suggest Jan Sommer. Despite the fact he's away from home against Young Boys, Inter Milan boast one of the best defences in Europe in the last couple of years. They've had a bit of a shaky start to the season compared to the normal high standards, but they're still in contention for another Serie A title. And for the Champions League, I think they can go very far in this competition, perhaps reaching the semi-finals. And of course, they were the finalists 2 seasons ago. And I do like this goalkeeper pairing, but you might want to go for David Raya over Emi Martinez if you don't go for a double up in the Arsenal attack, or you might not want to go for two Arsenal defenders in Saliba and Gabriel. Arsenal are another team that have kept 2 clean sheets out of 2 matches. Gabriel is right up there for points scored amongst defenders. He can get a lot of ball recoveries, and he can also get a few goals, as he's shown in the Premier League already against Tottenham Hotspur and Manchester City in very tough away games. And if I had to pick one Arsenal defender overall, it would be Gabriel at this moment in time. But in UCL Fantasy last season, it was Saliba who was the best for ball recoveries and UCL Fantasy points, and I wouldn't mind going for him in an Arsenal defensive double up. But as I mentioned earlier, you could go for David Raya in goal and then one of Gabriel or Saliba, with a preference being Gabriel at this moment in time. Or perhaps you want to double up on the Arsenal attack with Kai Havertz up front, which I also wouldn't mind. But for this Limitless, I'm going for Gabriel and Saliba. I think Arsenal have one of the best chances of keeping a clean sheet, if not the very best on paper, against Shakhtar Donetsk. So I'd really suggest that. And you also have a few players on the Tuesday, and it helps with that balance of having more playing on the 22nd of October, and you can make those substitutions according to who is your lowest scoring players, and also have more opportunities to maximize your points potential. Speaking of which, I'm going for another Tuesday player in Hakimi, who doesn't have the best fixture on paper against PSV at home. There could be a goal conceded, but with it being a home fixture, PSG also being quite strong in these home matches, Hakimi has the attacking potential and can get ball recoveries. I would go for him as a Tuesday option. But you've also got Theo Hernandez if you maybe back AC Milan to keep a clean sheet against Club Brugge a little bit more than Paris Saint-Germain. But I honestly don't trust either defence that much. But if I had to pick one, it would be PSG, and Hakimi is well worth that 5.5 million price tag. He had some good moments against Arsenal despite the 2-0 defeat, and he always offers a lot of threat with those runs. He's one of the quickest right backs in world football, so I'd highly suggest Hakimi as a defender in the Limitless. Maybe on the wildcard not so much because PSG have some very tough games coming up in the future, but I think he's a perfect option for the Matchday free Limitless chip this week. Let's now complete this defense with 2 more options, and here it's a 50-50 call. You can go for Grimaldo or Frimpong, and I'm going for the latter right now, who has got a few more UCL Fantasy points so far this season, but you could honestly go for Grimaldo, who has played better overall from the beginning of this season, but in recent weeks it has been more level, and if anything, Frimpong might have gone ahead of him in terms of form and the goals and assists combined, so either one of them will do a great job, but they are facing Brest, who are right up there in the UEFA Champions League phase table, so it might not be the easiest of games, but you always pick these wing backs for the attacking potential, a bit similar to Hakimi here, but a clean sheet is still possible in my opinion. And finally, we're going for a Manchester City defender on the 23rd of October on the Wednesday, and I'm going for a Kanji, but you could go for Gvardiol if you wish. He might also be a little bit more nailed on, but I think Akanji gets a lot more starts than he's given credit for, and he's incredible for ball recoveries, but I think it's a close one between him or Gvardiol, who might offer more attacking potential, but with ball recoveries in mind, I'd probably give the slight edge to the Swiss centre-back. On Friday morning, Mikel Arteta provided a positive update about Bukayo Saka in his press conference, and he said his injury isn't too serious and he hopes he plays against Bournemouth. I have him in my predicted lineup in that FPL video, so be sure to check that out. And I personally think he'll start against Shakhtar Donetsk, and I don't see much rotation for Arsenal in the Champions League or Premier League, especially with these players like Saka who tend to start every single match. So I'm very confident he's a great captaincy option on the Tuesday, and I'd highly recommend him for the Limitless, wildcard, or your normal transfers. I think he's a great option with a favourable home tie against Shakhtar Donetsk. Next up is a 7.5 million midfielder who has very low ownership. He's scored in the Champions League already against Liverpool in Matchday 1, and that's Pulisic. Now, AC Milan have been fairly inconsistent. They went on a bit of a run recently, but they aren't the most reliable of teams in the last couple of years. But Pulisic has been in great form since the summer, where he scored a few goals for the United States of America in the Copa America. So I think Pulisic is a good option here in this position, and someone you definitely want to consider, and another Tuesday option, which is very helpful with that balance you might want to achieve with the Limitless or wildcard chips. My third midfielder, though, will be Salah, who plays on the Wednesday. You could argue it's a tough away game against Red Bull Leipzig, but I still think Liverpool will get the win, and Salah is very likely to be involved. He did very well against Bologna in Matchday 2, so I really like him as a UCL Fantasy option. He'll be right up there for points scored in this position, and he might even be a Golden Boot contender for this competition. So I really like Salah, and he's always going to be part of the Limitless or wildcard thinking, particularly with this chip, I have to say, with his price tag. Next up is Wirtz, who has a bit of a tough away game based on recent form, as Brest are doing very well, but Wirtz is still one of my favourite midfielders in the game. He is a slight doubt as he was subbed off early for Germany during the international break, but I think he'll be available for Matchday 3, and he's been flawless in the Champions League this season. He won Player of the Match in Matchday 1 and 2, even though he didn't get a single goal or assist in the recent match in the Champions League, but I still think he's a great option nonetheless, and I'd highly recommend him as well. But you could go against him. Even the likes of Rafinha or Yamal, facing Bayern Munich, they could still do a great job, and you've got so many other midfielders I'll cover in the next few videos as well. And finally, I'm going for another differential who hasn't started many games for Manchester City this season, but recently he's getting more and more minutes, building on that fitness and match sharpness, and that is none other than Phil Foden, who has 8% ownership right now and a price tag of 9 million. I look to double or triple up on Man City, despite the fact they play on Wednesday, which isn't ideal, and there could be rotation for the citizens, and that's always going to be a concern with Pep Guardiola. But I think Foden will start, and let's see if the minutes against Wolves has any impact. But if all goes well, I think Foden is a fantastic option. Dusan Vlahovic has had a good start to this season. He scored a brace in Matchday 2 against Red Bull Leipzig away from home, despite the fact that Juventus went down to 10 men, and I really like him as a Limitless option this week, and perhaps even on the wildcard longer term. But you've also got Lautaro Martinez and Kai Havertz at a similar price. I wouldn't mind any of them with their favourable games against Shakhtar Donetsk and Young Boys, but I'm going to go for Vlahovic here, and two expensive forwards in Kylian Mbappe, who hasn't been at his best level so far this season, but he still scored a few goals for Real Madrid. They're getting a few penalties, and he can get a few assists in the process. And I think Borussia Dortmund, despite their really good form in the Champions League, they're top of the table right now. I think Real Madrid could get a victory here, and Mbappe could get a few goal contributions, but I can understand why some of you might be reluctant about going for any Real Madrid players, including Mbappe or Vinicius Jr. I think either one of them would make for a great option. Harry Kane, despite facing Barcelona away from home, is a great choice with a fantastic run of form. Lewandowski, the same thing goes for him. He's arguably been even better than Harry Kane, at least in the domestic competition. So they are all worth considering. And I think you could easily go for one of those forwards I just mentioned. But I'd go for Vlahovic, Mbappe, and Erling Haaland. There's no doubts about that for me with Erling Haaland, with the fixture in mind. His great form throughout the season, although it has dipped in recent weeks. He scored a few goals for Norway during the international break, and I think this fixture is primed for a Haaland brace or hat-trick. He could even score 4 or 5 goals, depending on how many minutes he gets and how Man City approach this game, because they've also got a lot of Premier League games coming up, and despite them being easy on paper, they'll still want to get the job done and keep pace with Liverpool and Arsenal. So that's the 50-man squad. Let's now talk about the captaincy very briefly. So let's sort it out by date. On the 22nd of October, you've got plenty of options like Mbappe, Vlahovic, Saka. You might want to go a bit rogue with the captaincy and go for a defender, but I'd personally go for Saka if he's fit and available for Matchday 3, and I personally think he will be. And on the 23rd, Foden might be a nice differential. Wirtz and Salah will always be great choices, but Erling Haaland, I'll keep it very simple there. He'll be my captain on the Wednesday if you don't get a good enough return from your Tuesday choice. And as for your bench, make sure that those playing on Tuesday, the 22nd of October, are in your starting 11, and you might have, 2 or 3 players on the 23rd of October in your starting 11. That's completely fine, but just make sure they make the substitutions in time and take off your low scoring players for those yet to play on the Wednesday. Thank you very much for watching this video and listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. Our aim is to get this to over 200 likes and to keep on pushing towards 5,000 subscribers and beyond. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the links in the description below for my Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, the Discord server, UCL Fantasy League, Draft Hound, as well as Spotify. Leave a 5-star review on my podcast. It'd go a long way to support my channel. I wish you all the best of luck for Matchday 3 and the rest of the season, and I'll see you next time.